To really enjoy wordplay is a great delight. I hope that those of you that are listening to this podcast have an opportunity to play with language, not just use it. Puns, jokes, and wordplay in general can create such a sense of connection and joy between people. And that's certainly been true of my guest for this podcast, who happens to be my son-in-law, Josh Daly. He actually established a pun event that is designed to be a way of a community celebration and experience of wordplay, and also a bit of competition that brings joy. I hope that you'll enjoy this podcast with Josh Daly and think about the wordplay, jokes, puns, and enjoyment of language in your life. I'm having fun with this recording today for several reasons. First of all, because I love language and puns are part of fun language. And next, I love jokes and games. And this, my guest today, is just incredible at all those different things. And then on top of it, I get the pleasure of being able to have that happen whenever I want, because this is my son-in-law, Josh Daly. Josh, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Josh, one of the things that you are amazing at, and you are amazing at many different things, is the idea of puns. You have a great language background, and you enjoy puns from a family point of view. Start with some of the aspects of that, because we do want to go to inviting people to understand the pun competition that you host. But let's start with why it is that puns attract you.
It's funny, talking about being funny is not always funny. So, but I think puns are just, as early as I learned them, and you learn them early as, the first jokes that you learn are almost always puns. But when I realized that you could do that, I've always been a bit of a smart aleck, and I like, play and games, and I've always enjoyed language and reading and talking and so it kind of grew with me. I kind of got into it from very young age. My family, our families are lovers of language and books and the written word and spoken word and performance and all those things. So it was just a natural thing that I sort of gravitated towards very early. But then I think I got if you can say, I got serious about it. So I started singing in a barbershop quartet in high school. And I mean, the barbershop style is great music and a lot of fun to sing, but it's also very much married to puns and wordplay and that type of humor. So then I started performing in ways that involved puns, and that's just always fun. I think that was the initial draw. I mean, even our first connections had puns all over them.
Oh, absolutely. My father, the immigrant English learner, decided that language play was among the most fun things on the planet. So it's been a joy from the very beginning to have had the opportunity to expand exponentially the pun, joke, and wordplay of our families. So I always have thanked you for that. And I even have, although this is an audio podcast, I have a pun sweatshirt on this evening with musical notes that are in various time signatures that are unusual, and it is lists down below. These are difficult times. So in honor of our conversation, I have worn a t-shirt that I thought Josh would enjoy as well. Josh, let's I'm going to come back to Barbershop Quartet and some of the things you mentioned about that, but let's go ahead and dive into you have made a special event for your community in Rhode Island around puns. Would you describe what it is and who participates and what happens and why you have it?
I dreamed up a pun competition event. I can't remember where the germ of the idea came from, but again, just enjoying games and wordplay and music. And so it felt like we should have fun and try out a pun competition and a pun game. And so I think I pitched that to the local community theater here as an idea here in Rhode Island called the Contemporary Theater, and they said that sounds like a lot of fun, and we are interested in that. So so then we're off to the races, and I've always loved games, and I love play, and I love like just and language play obviously is among the most fun of among that. So I think I pitched that idea, and I had come up with these different games that were basically just prompts for people to pun off of, right? I mean, that's one of the amazing things about puns. It's just so easy and natural. It just as soon as we learn language, we have the ability to learn that we can make funny sounds, that we can make that words and sounds combine in interesting ways, that words sound alike and different things sound alike but mean different things, and that just opens up the door for all of this kind of joking, and so you don't need anything other than people talking. It's just a natural sort of fun thing. So I created some games and wrote some songs for the Barbershop Quartet, and we held our first Pund'It event at the Contemporary Theater here in town, and it was a ton of fun. So yeah.
How many years have you had the Pund'It now?
It's been several years now. We've done a few of them. I wouldn't say exactly an annual thing, but we run it for a few years now.
Now, you have fun with it, but you also have a bit of a competition with this. Is that true?
Yeah, it's not. I mean, there are very serious pun competitions, if you could say such a thing, out there. There's one, the O. Henry pun competition is like the granddaddy of it all, and a lot of those are around like speed of like you go one-on-one against someone, and you have to like in a certain quick fire way just pun on a topic, and you're sort of it's who can outlast the other person. So I wanted to create something that wasn't quite as high stakes as that, and was a little more just playful, and allowed people to enter in the way that they wanted to, and didn't feel like, it felt like people could get up and be at a community theater and feel, like everybody was having fun. So I created it in such a way that it wasn't like a one-on-one, who can pun faster type of a game. One of the games, for instance, is called Used to Date. And so it's based off of a series, like a running joke that my aunt and uncle and their family have, which is I used to date, and then you say a punny name, and then you riff off the punny name, right? So that's the prompts of the game. I used to date clarinet. We had a honking good time. She was, all these things, right? And so you just start with the prompts. You get people up onto the stage in a community theater, and start with the prompts, and people just jump in, and it's just a lot of fun. And we've even created the environment where people in the audience, we joke around as they're the peanut gallery, and after people on stage are done punning around, people in the audience are yelling out puns too. So everybody is sort of getting involved, and it's just better because of that, right? There's this feeling of like everybody can riff off of it. So, and then it's a competition still. So what we do is audience judging, and we use something we call the seismograph. Size, of course, being SIGHS. So the seismograph is how we measure. Exactly. Yes, the groanometer it could be called. But yes. So, and that's how we judge how who wins a round, and then tally up the points and all of that kind of stuff.
I'm going to definitely have to send the transcript to you when the folks attempt to transcribe this podcast, because that goes on my website, and I suspect that this will be quite an adventure for them attempting to work with some of these. What are some of the other prompts and options that you have that you've enjoyed over these times?
Yeah, so I mentioned the used to date, which is a fun one, and then we do another one. I've called it "You're Fired," and it's basically the prompts are, and we'd riff off of one of the guys in the quartet keeps losing his job, and he lost his job as this. He lost his job as a lumberjack, and then you have to pun off of why he lost his job as a lumberjack. He couldn't cut it. He got the axe. He was dead wood to them. All the things that you would think of for those things, right? And then it's just that it's here's lumberjack, working at the orange juice factory, all the things that
He couldn't concentrate.
exactly.
Okay. Yes.
They got him beating the pulp out of some guy, so he just peeled right out of there. So, yeah, that's another
Once you
one.
get started, you can't stop.
That's
There
the
you
great
go.
thing. That's the great thing. And then everybody gets in on it, right? And then it's suddenly it's people are groaning and laughing and just having a great time. So that's one of the other games. And then we do another one that's it's a little more challenging, but we just call it Sunday Pun Day because it's one that we play on our social media accounts and just post prompts on Sundays, Sunday Pun Day. And it's just take two unrelated words, put them together, and see who can come up with a pun that sort of connects the two words. It's one of the more difficult ones to play because it takes a little more time to think through the puns that connect two words. I usually, actually, the way that I often do it, I'm going to be a magician who reveals his secrets, but basically when I find a pun I like, I just dissect it and figure out, what is it punning on? And then I use the two things that it's usually punning on. And that's what I give as the prompt for, the next Sunday Pun Day. So,
Well, and one of the items that's on my website that I'm going to invite people to go to and take a look at is your The Dad Jokes site, where you have various places where you put dad jokes, and also looking at the pundit competition itself. What kinds of things you have this Sunday Pun Day? What other types of things do you provide then when you are inviting people to take a look at this spot?
So we're most active on Facebook. We have a lot of followers there, and we have a group on Facebook as well. And the cool thing is to see that folks have followed us from all over the world because people have enjoyed terrible puns from all over the world, and so we just post memes regularly, just funny pictures with puns all over them or bad dad jokes on them, and then share them around, and we've invited people to join the Pund'It community on Facebook as well, which I'm realizing we need to link in our main link, our link tree. So yeah, we post sort of regularly on puns and have people riff off of them, and usually in the comments you got a ton of people who are punning off of it. As I said, one of the cool things is it's gotten some traction, and we have folks from all around the world. And so, there's mostly in English speaking because we're, I'm posting stuff in English, but I see folks commenting and asking questions in languages from around the world. And one of the things that you realize in that too is that puns are one of the best ways to learn some of the nuances and complexity of the English language, right? I mean, it's true of other languages too, but in particular, I think English, because it has so many tricky, homophones and other things like that, that if you can get a pun, if you can get a joke in another language, you really get the language, right?
Absolutely. I know world language educators have always said that one of the hardest things to do, or even to remember to do with students, is to bring some humor in. And the moment they begin to get it, because it's also cultural. As a matter of fact, Josh, let's go back to that just a little bit. when you say it's a very helpful thing, you've had a very positive spin on that. I can imagine that some of my listeners are thinking puns would be really hard, maybe even discouraging. What do you experience when you interact with the folks that are looking at this and learning things from it? What are some of the stories you can tell, or things you can share about it?
I wish I could think of just one in particular where it's happened, but it's happened, a number of times where we'll post something and then somebody in the comments, is asking for an explanation. And so I'm always quick to be happy to explain what's going on in the joke, both because that obviously makes the joke much funnier, but also, but also because it is this great opportunity for learning. And they're always appreciative of that too. So I think I can't think of a particular um, moment, but I can think of, multiple occasions where folks have, or, I see folks sharing it and making comments in other languages as well. So I know people are sort of taking that in. Now I have to say, I've never been formally a teacher as such, as a profession, but I did, teach adult literacy and GED preparation when I was a college student in New Orleans. And one of my favorite sort of memories of that was I was working with a guy, an older gentleman, who was working towards his GED, and we were doing a lesson and a section on homonyms, and which he was finding really challenging. And so I brought in a kid's joke book, because, as we said, like so many kids' jokes and puns and dad jokes are, based off of that kind of wordplay. And so it was trying to get, like, these things sound the same, but they mean something different, right? And so, like, that's like a hard concept to wrap your mind around until we kept doing these jokes, right? And I'm over there cracking up, and it's not hitting for him until it finally does. And then it hit for him, and it was like he belly laughed, and it's like, that experience when you're a teacher of, like, when your student gets it, when they haven't been getting it, like the satisfaction of that. And to have the satisfaction of that be a literal punchline with like a belly laugh was just so satisfying. So.
That's phenomenal, and what an encouragement! Because again, going back to, are we confusing people? And you brought in something that then brought that awareness, brought that illumination through kids' jokes in this way, which is, I think, really not very intimidating then, is it? They're very simple, but that profound understanding that took over there, that's awesome. Have you ever come across somebody that you have worked with directly, or maybe stories about someone, since you're connected with so many people with regard to these jokes and puns, that never did get a pun or doesn't really understand them?
You get folks who don't get them for sure, and some people, don't get it, and then you sort of let them in. I like to do it sort of playfully and gently, and so I sort of keep the puns going until there's like that was that. So usually it takes a little time, but that's another thing I love about puns. I mean, this isn't always the case. You could use them in sort of malicious or snide sort of ways, but generally a dad joke and a pun is at no one's expense. It's not a sarcastic type of humor. It's not, and so because of that too, it has a sort of playfulness and welcoming, to folks. So I love that about it. And it's just it's any moment. It is, my teachers throughout the years would certainly say I was a bit of a smart aleck and probably pretty disruptive. but tried to be good natured about it. But that's what puns are. They're good natured disruptions. They're sort of, let's play with this. Let's play with what we're talking about and have some fun.
Speaking of disruptions, you told a story once in a family gathering about the fact that your family would, as it were, disrupt people's names and take your names down some interesting pathways, depending on how the words suggested themselves. Can you illustrate that here verbally for us so that people can understand what it is that your family did? And we'll see if some listeners have the same kind of experience in their family or not.
Yeah, I mean it's right along the same lines, that it's just sort of playing with words and playing with sounds, and and you have tons of examples I know of names that stick because they are playing with sounds, Pada and whoever. But in our family, I can't even count the number of nicknames that I have. I'm the baby of the family, and so you get even more nicknames because of that. But my sister Liz was always playful in that way, has always been playful in that way with me, and so she was that way with her friends too. And so her friends, I think, gave her the names. So she went from Liz to Lizard to Zard, Lizard, and then Zard, and then Zardine, then Zardinsky, like just playful things that keep going. It kept going all the way till I got to, Deansky and Ski. So it's just sort of, and I have, I don't know how many different, nicknames that are similar type of playfulness. It's just, let's play around with the sounds and the letters and yeah, it's just
and enjoy that. And you still had a very positive approach with it. It wasn't that you did not give in a single example there with regard to your sister with one that would have been considered to be, insulting. It was always
right.
a word play that was designed to be fun. When you have family members, you have children, and working with the children as they've been growing up, what do you think has been the most fun about this wordplay joy that you have watching them enter into it? Where have the successes come from, and perhaps some of the biggest groans?
Well, they are called dad jokes for a reason. Although I should say that the moms I know, and certainly mom in our family, is as big a punster as dad is. I love it because the girls, our girls get into it, right? They groan. They definitely groan, but they also enjoy it and they get into it. And one of the coolest things has been seeing that as they get a little bit older, they're reading and they're taking in language and they're learning, and they've gotten to the ages now where they pun and they'll tell me puns and they'll make up puns, and I love that. That's like the coolest thing ever. Like when they make a pun, I am like floored, and I laugh so hard, and I love it. So they definitely groan when I pun.
But they're giving it right back to you now.
They're giving it right back to me. Yeah, exactly. My eldest she even said this for like a school project or something. She wrote about how she likes dad jokes, but not when her dad makes them or something like that.
Well, that would be a young teen.
Yes, that's on brand.
Josh, going back for just a sec now to the opening aspect that you made about barbershop quartet. I don't know if those that are not deeply engaged in barbershop quartet realize the linguistic aspect of that particular art. Can you tell us more about it? What brought that into such a close connection there?
That's a good. I haven't done deep historical study of this, so this will be a little bit of my sense of how these things are connected. Barbershop music is a fun style of music. It's a cappella, no instruments, all voices, 4-part harmony. It comes. It's sort of heyday, and the music that you're singing is from turn of the 20th century kind of stuff. So it's these old Let Me Call You Sweetheart and Goodbye My Coney Island Baby and all that kind of stuff. So it's great, fun music, and a lot of it, some of it is croony, and sweet ballads and stuff like that, but an awful lot of it is silly and playful. And so the music itself already lends itself to a little bit of a, it came out of, as I understand it, the history of it came out of vaudeville. And so it always has this sort of element of, the playful, staged, comedic elements to it. So, and I just, I think we got into it when I was in high school, our quartet. It was just a natural thing to add to our shows, of like, well, we're a barbershop quartet. So of course we're going to, fill in the time between the songs with horrible puns. And it just adds to the enjoyment of it. So, and now I've even, and I think it's hard to write musical lyrics, with wordplay and jokes, right? Cole Porter, amazing jazz writer, composer, lyricist, was a master at it. But it's fun, and I've written some stuff that's punny as well. I wrote the theme song for our Pund'It competition, and both the like theme music and then a theme song. It's based on that has a bunch of puns in it.
Give yourself a pitch and sing it for us, please.
Some say puns are lowbrow, and verily they groan along. But bet you'll raise an eyebrow as we sing our little song. So then it's the tale of Lester the Jester. Lester the Jester was on a mission, brought 10 puns to a pun competition, hoped they'd hook a laugh by the time that it ended, but oh, what a gaffe, no pun intended. There you go. Oh, how we love wordplay, so play on words, play on.
All right. Thanks for doing that. That was great. Exactly. And not everybody knows how to pun really well. They can certainly be exposed to it, maybe through the things that they'll pick up from this podcast and from my website from it. What ways would you say that folks can get engaged in learning more about and enjoying punning and wordplay?
Well, I think it can be confounding to folks. I know that it's like, it takes a certain type of thinking, right? One of the things I love about it too is that it's playful in this way. And if you think about it, like in a technical sense, it's very much about divergent thinking, right? That's why it's so creative, right? It's like thinking of, things that are unrelated to one another, right? And going off in sort of disparate directions. So that can be really hard for some folks. That's not like a natural sort of, for other folks, it's a very natural thing. They're doing it all the time. And those are the folks who are cutting up during all of your meetings and conversations and whatever. But I think, if I were to give sort of like, hey, you want to be a punster too, if I were writing my how-to, I think looking at those, like kids' joke books, stuff like that, just sort of what you probably start to notice is that you're playing with sounds. So one of the easy ways to start doing punning is just rhyming, right? So rhyming just like opens itself up to replace a word with a word that rhymes with it, and now you've just done a basic pun, right? There's different, if you want to get technical about it, there's different types of puns, like a spoonerism where you swap out the first letters of two words, that's a little harder.
Beeping Slooty kind of
exactly
thing.
That kind of thing.
Sleeping Beauty. Mm-hmm.
Right, exactly. Although a little juvenile, but in the pun song that I wrote, one of the verses is about spoonerisms. So,
I'm sorry, you got to share it with us. That's why we're here today. Go for it.
As I said, a little juvenile. So Lester. So it's Lester the Jester, and his next verse is Lester. He weren't a real smart feller, and he weren't a real good speller. and he's met a girl in the last verse. So she was as good a tutor as a spoonerism teller. Look out, Lester, or you'll be a fart smeller. So it starts out with a smart feller and a fart smeller, and she was a good tutor. So I mean, it's just puns on multiple.
Yes, this is why it's so much fun to be around the dinner table. Absolutely.
with some apologies for the juvenile humor, but it's all in
Quite
good
all right.
fun.
We enjoy that thoroughly. I assure you. So yeah. So in other words, playing around with just goofing around with words, goofing around with change of sounds, with things that are rhyming and so forth, is a good good way to get started with it. And how about people that? Let's go back to the people that are learning English again. How soon do you think? I guess it depends on the person, right? That's learning. Whether or not they're comfortable with starting something fairly early, because I guess it could confuse folks. Can you comment on that just a little bit?
Well, I mean, you are certainly much more well versed in education and thinking thoughtfully about the classroom. I am a mere punster of an amateur variety, but I would say, I think I'm a big fan of introduce it at all times. Whenever there's an opportunity, I think there's a place you can meet folks with humor wherever they are, right? And like I said, the joke books, that I was working on with the gentleman that I talked about, the adult literacy GED, books were kids' books, right? They were, vocabulary was not all that advanced, and really it was about sort of, can you get the joke? And to get the joke, you have to get what a pun is. You have to get, what it is to play around with those words and sounds in that way. So I think there's this opportunity to use jokes. I mean, I always love if you can use play and humor in any learning environment. I think it's a naturally conducive to being engaging and connecting and social. Like it's a natural, I could go on about how much I love puns for so many different reasons, but this is the other thing. They're playful. They're naturally social. Language is naturally social, right? It's meant to connect us. And so games and play are like the ways that we want to learn the most. It's the most natural way that we learn. Kids do it without you ever telling them to do it, right? They naturally play with whatever is in front of them. So they play first with, as they're babies, with, sounds through, the little motions and whatever else. And then once they start learning words, it's it's playing with sounds and whatever else. So we're just naturally playful. And I think if you can tap into that at any stage in the learning journey, you just have opened up something that's really generative and just a lot of fun.
It reminds me of two things. One is that our youngest grandchild currently is one that was very, very verbal, and I finally started as I would drive him from place to place, counting exactly how many times he would say the same thing. Usually it was 75, 100, and 120 times, which I thought was extraordinary even for a kid practicing language. And as he got a little older, his sentences became funnier and had more goofy sounds, which clearly he was enjoying himself thoroughly with. He'd start switching the sounds around. And that play is such an important part of the manipulation of the sounds of a language for words. One of the things that reminds me of, Josh, is that you've just brought up such an important point. Sometimes we get, I think, a very practical, transactional almost experience of language. We're learning language so that we can, so we can make friends, but also so we can get a better job or so we can pass this class. And bringing out that language is fun. Language is designed for play. Probably need more of that in even our formal settings. What do you think?
Oh, I definitely do. I mean, I don't do this. I do it for the fun of it, but I also do it because I'm serious about play, and I think we should bring play and creativity into more places. I brought games and play and creativity into my day job sort of stuff too. I work in economic development and entrepreneurship kind of stuff, and it's all sorts of creativity and play opportunities there as well. So yeah, I absolutely think, it's not as though, the serious business world or the serious world of academia should be all buttoned up and play is this thing that we do over here. It's the naughty little, kid in the corner. It's like, no, actually play. And if you think about, if you're serious about literature, or whatever, plays or whatever, wordplay is everywhere. It's everywhere. If it's good enough for Shakespeare and James Joyce and everyone else, then it's good enough for me.
Yeah, absolutely right. I think we should bring that one on. You have taken languages other than English in your time. Is that correct?
I have. I have to admit that I have not mastered them, but I have taken other languages, yes.
When you were taking them, was there ever an opportunity? Did you ever come across someone that was enjoying wordplay or that encouraged wordplay in that new language in any way?
Not in the formal studies as I can recall it, although I wish there were more opportunities for that. But finding things, we lived in Canada and I was learning French a bit, and we found, some silly, videos that were playing with sounds in French Canadian dialect, and with that and and all of these things. So it was yeah, I probably would have gravitated more towards it if it was more playful, but
good point. Perhaps that's something that could attract students in world language classes to this day if there were more wordplay and humor in it. And absolutely right. Absolutely right. And that's another thing about encouraging people. So I'm encouraging people to take a look at my website to be able to find your at the Dad Jokes site in this various iterations, and to get familiar with the Pund'It competition and others like it. Where are some other suggestions that you might send folks to learn more about this, or to enjoy themselves, or to come across something that will delight them, that they don't necessarily have to learn something important from, but they can just plain old enjoy, including barbershop quartets that might be especially good in the linguistic direction, or just because they're really good?
Well, definitely. So anyone, we do tend towards Facebook on our Dad Jokes barbershop quartet content. So folks, if they're on that site, can get engaged with our page, can follow our page and join our Pund'It group there. We've done some virtual pun competitions, Pund'It versions where people can watch. We've done live streams where people can watch and comment in. So wherever you are, you could potentially join in the next time we do a Pund'It competition. I think, you could go down the rabbit hole of barbershop quartets. I think there's a very funny barbershop quartet, contemporary one called the Newfangled Four, who I like a lot. But yeah, I think those are places to check out some good humor and punning going on.
Great. Well, and your own too. And I'm delighted to be able to provide information about your barbershop quartet so people can enjoy what you are doing specifically as well. What is it that you would be like, before we stop, I really want to make sure that people hear this about just wordplay, puns, jokes, anything having to do with what we've talked about, or something that was on your mind that I didn't ask about, but you would love for people to hear from you before we end the podcast today?
I would just encourage folks to think about wordplay as not this frivolous sort of thing, but as this, opportunity for fun and engagement and play in a way that's not less serious because it's playful, and not less serious because it's, this opportunity to, but actually is this opening for people to appreciate, some things that are important about language. I think about, debates people get into about language. I think most punsters probably, are of the language enthusiast variety, loving all of its diversity and whatever people bring to it. And I think that's, I think the beauty, again, another beauty of puns is like, it allows, if we can't play with language, we can't make it our own. And so playing with it is part of being able to make it our own, and giving, if you're working in a educational context, or you're working in whatever context you're working in, there's always an opportunity for this kind of play with words.
Beautifully said. And it does remind me that I didn't mention in your presence or ask you about the connection of wordplay and, say, poetry. I think perhaps one of the reasons why Amanda Gorman, for example, had such an impact on folks was the rhythm and the play of words in her spoken poetry. Is that, am I connecting some dots there that you think of as being appropriate to do?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a natural sort of thing. Poetry is this distillation of words and sounds, and this, where each word and sound has to stand for so much more, right? Because it's sort of distilled in this way. And so I think it's natural for that playfulness with words to come out in poetry. And you think about Amanda Gorman, has done it beautifully. There's, obviously, in hip hop and rap music, there's this playfulness with sounds and rhymes and inner rhymes and all sorts of things like that. And as I said, in Shakespeare, there's all sorts of punning in so many different great creators. I mentioned, certainly lyricists like Cole Porter. Stephen Sondheim does it all the time in Broadway, and that sort of wit is so satisfying as a craft, as part of the craft of language, because it goes back to that same sort of natural thing of there's something enjoyable and satisfying about wordplay itself, the way that the words themselves land, the sounds, the cadence, the rhyme, the rhythm, it has a pleasure in and of itself, beyond the meaning of the word, that even just the feeling of the words has a pleasure in and of itself. So, and I think that's what puns are definitely about, that sort of pleasure with just the, that playfulness. I think about it too. I mean, I thought you were going to go in the philosophy or theology direction too, and we kind of have leaned towards that. But one of the philosophers and theologians who I really have enjoyed reading and learning about since my graduate studies was a French philosopher, Paul Ricoeur. And Paul Ricoeur was a philosopher who, talks a lot about phenomenology and hermeneutics and all sorts of fancy things like that, but about language, right? And is talking about, one of the phrases that he has that I think is so interesting is the plurality of meaning. That language, in some way in its nature, has this inherent plurality of meaning, right? And this unfolding and refolding, and this sort of like, because of the many different meanings that are implicit and latent in language itself. That's also what sort of wordplay opens up, is this plurality of meaning, and therefore a diversity of expression, and that sort of freedom, to do that. I think that's also, if I got philosophical about, wordplay and puns.
You see, you have 3 degrees: music composition, theology, and business administration. And wordplay is in every single one of those. I'm so glad you brought the theological part up as well, because it is in its own way very strong. An important philosopher to know, and an important direction in which people can go, that unfolding and refolding of items. What do you think is your very, very favorite example of something? Do you come back to something over and over again, be it a joke or a pun or a thought or an insight? You've shared so many of them. Let's just see. Is there something else that you're just like, oh, and this is my favorite?
I just love them all. It's the latest one that I've heard and laughed at is usually my favorite. But I do enjoy. I'll give you a good pun that I enjoy quite a bit. I was going for surgery recently, and so I had to have a meeting with the anesthesiologist before the surgery to prepare for it, and she told me that the gas, right? They could put me under with the gas, like they do, or I could try this new. They could try this new experimental method, which was that they just whack you upside the head with a paddle. And I said, geez, that's a really difficult either or situation.
Oh, oh, yeah.
It's so bad.
It is. I was looking for nothing less out of you, Josh Daly. Thank you. And folks, when you listen to this, I encourage you to go and find the next thing that Josh Daly finds that is the most groan-worthy of jokes right there in the ether. Yes, thank you so much, Josh. Josh, it's been a pleasure. I've had so much fun, as I always do. Thank you for sharing these skill sets of yours and this joy. And it's been fun to encourage people to think about the role of wordplay in lives, and that adds so much. So thank you again, and keep enjoying that fun, and I hope that the listeners will join in as well.
Thank you.
Well, I sure hope that you enjoyed this podcast. And maybe you were thinking of some of your favorite jokes and puns and groaners as you were listening to Josh give some examples. Especially, I hope that you will continue to remember the joy that is in language, the fun that is in language, the play that is in language. Go on my website, fluency.consulting. Take a look at some of the links that Josh has provided, including to those events and opportunities that he provides in his love of and expertise of wordplay and fun. Until next time.